Good evening and welcome to another edition of Tigers Roar. Spread the roar right here on Pelican Sports TV, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and New Orleans. Streaming on the internet at PelicanSportsTV.com. I am Tommy Krysan of Pelican Sports TV, joined by NFL scout and Fox Sports football analyst Chris Landry. Chris, hard to believe, final show of September is happening tonight.
It is. The season is going by fast, no question about it.
Want to get to the top story as we sit here on Wednesday night. Information that just came out a little more than 30 minutes ago. Jordan Jefferson, Josh Johns have been reinstated to the LSU football team and can begin practicing immediately. Press release came out from LSU with a quote from Athletic Director Joe Oliva. So you will know what happened just earlier this evening. The grand jury read their decisions. They decided to drop all charges against Josh Johns, and they decided to charge Jordan Jefferson with simple battery in the whole situation that occurred outside of the establishment near the LSU campus. These guys were suspended from the team back on August 26th. They're both back on the team and can begin practice immediately. We'll wait and see what the next step will be on the field. Now, I want to thank Sheriff Bud Torres of Point Capee Parish. He was here in the studios of Pelican Sports TV a while ago, and he gave us the correct definitions and terms of what has happened here. Number one, Josh Johns, again, no charges. Jordan Jefferson has been charged with simple battery. That acknowledges that he may or may not have had something to do with the incident. The key factor being they were not able to prove that Jordan Jefferson had an intent to hurt someone. If you're going to convict someone of a felony after charging them, it is the burdens on the state. They must prove an intent by someone to cause injury or harm or death or whatever. So obviously they were not able to prove intent. I think this acknowledges that Jefferson played some role in the situation because he is going to be charged with simple battery, which is a misdemeanor. As Sheriff Bud Torres of Point Capee Parish told us within the hour, it's like getting a speeding ticket. Yes, you've done something wrong. There will be consequences, but this is good news for Jordan Jefferson. This is good news for Josh Johns. It's good news for the LSU football team, and they'll proceed now with these two guys back on the team. Your reaction, Chris Landry?
Well, the legal part of it, I kind of let that played out like it needed to play out, and I really have no comment on that because I'm not really qualified on that. I can take it from the football standpoint. I think the one thing you always have to be careful of in a situation like this is when you bring somebody back in. It's not like it's a democracy. You don't have to have players vote on it. It's not that. But I think you, particularly in this situation where a number of players were witness to what happened, whatever that was, I think you have to be careful that you understand your team and that I think people are on board with this, because I think that this is certainly something that certainly not an act that's condoned. But to this point, to let somebody back in, you have to be squarely in their corner and feel like they're repentant and that this is the best direction to go for your football team. Remember, regardless what the charges were, or dropped, or reduced, that's a completely different issue than how you deal with it as a football team. I think there's certainly some risks involved, but there's no question that Jordan Jefferson is Les Miles' guy, and he's been back in his corner from the recruiting days. So I don't think anybody that's really close to the program is surprised by any stretch that he was going to be brought back immediately as soon as he was able to do it. He's done. Now what happens from here on out, time's going to only tell in terms of playing time, how involved. He was part of the Unity Council, which Les put him as part of the Unity Council. I think that's kind of proven that he certainly doesn't fit the criteria of what you want representing your team in terms of a Unity Council. But how this plays out down the road, it'll be interesting to see. I don't anticipate there being necessarily problems in the locker room, but who knows?
I think it's safe to say everybody just needs to defer to Coach Les Miles. He's the head coach. He will make the next series of decisions, whatever they may be, and I'm sure he'll do it in the best interest of his football program.
Well, sure, there's no question, and obviously anytime, I think these are the toughest decisions you have to make as a coach, far more than anything. You got assistants that deals with a lot of the X's and O's, but you're the head of the program, so you make your decisions based upon what you think is best, and you hope that it works out for all involved. That's the way I'll sum it up. That I hope that everything works out for the best for everybody that was involved in this very, very difficult and unfortunate situation.
Now, here's the exact quote that came with the press release at about 7:30 this evening. Vice Chancellor and Director of Athletics Joe Oliva. I am quoting Joe Oliva. Quote, "We certainly don't condone participation in the incident, but the legal system has determined that their actions did not rise to the level originally charged, and their punishment to date related to football has already been considerable. They will rejoin the team and begin practice immediately," unquote. I'm sure you can read that at lsusports.net if you want to read it further. There's only 2 other short sentences to that particular press release that we received here at the Pelican at about 7:30 this evening, and didn't have time to get a graphic up on the screen for you. So nonetheless, that's the very latest on Jordan Jefferson and Josh Downs. Josh Johns, I should say, because there is another player named Josh Downs, so I apologize for that slip there. Jordan Jefferson, Josh Johns. That's the absolute very latest right here on Tigers Roar. Hey, we got a jam-packed show for you tonight. We'll recap the West Virginia contest. We'll preview the Kentucky Wildcats. We'll get a lot of quotes and comments from Coach Miles and players. Some awards, again, came out to some LSU players. We'll look at some stats. We'll get you an injury update. We will also take our weekly run through the LSU athletic department. Got some volleyball, some soccer, got some women's golf, got some Louisiana Sports Writers Association stuff to share with you that we'll start doing on a weekly basis. Also, normally we hear from Brian Lazar of TigerBait.com. Brian unable to join us tonight. In hour number 2, we hope to connect with Ronnie Rance of Sports Shorts TV, which is seen right here on the Pelican, Monday nights at 8 p.m., Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Ronnie was a part of the post-game show the other night. He and Lynn Rollins did a great job, so we look forward to our visit with Ronnie in hour number 2. Also, we remind you, coming up tomorrow in Baton Rouge on Thursday, the weekly edition of the Chris Landry Show. It's heard each and every Thursday from 2 until 3 p.m. on The Score, 1210 a.m. in Baton Rouge on your radio dial. It streams online at thescore1210.com. Podcasts are also available at thescore1210.com. Chris Landry, give everybody a hint of what you'll have for them on this week's edition of the Chris Landry Show.
Well, we're going to go into some key matchups around college football and the NFL this weekend. Of course, got big Nebraska-Wisconsin matchup in the Big Ten. We're going to look at the big SEC matchup between Florida and Alabama in the Swamp Saturday night. Some other key college matchups that I think are really intriguing. Some NFL matchups as well that are big. The Cowboys and the Lions going to really get into the Jaguars and this Kentucky team who are the opponents for the Saints and LSU. All the latest news from around the world of college football and the NFL, and the hour goes by pretty quick, so we look forward to visiting with you on that tomorrow.
And don't forget, Monday through Fridays from 3 to 4 p.m., also on the Score 1210 a.m. and the Score1210.com. It's Pelican Sports Radio with me, Tommy Krysan, and Chris Landry, taking your phone calls, mixing it up. I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about on tomorrow's program. Pelican Sports Radio, 3 to 4 p.m. on the Score, 1210 a.m. And don't forget, immediately following the LSU-Kentucky game this Saturday at about 2:30, it'll be the Phones First, WJBO, Pelican Sports TV post-game show with Richard Condon and me, Tommy Krysan. Phones First, WJBO, 1150 a.m. on your radio dial. For those of you that are in the vehicles trying to leave the stadium, get it on the radio. If you're at home, get it on Pelican Sports TV, both streaming online. Phones First, WJBO, Pelican Sports TV post-game show, about 2:30, immediately following LSU and Kentucky. Spread the word on that. And, of course, your best way to keep up with everything is on Facebook. The Facebook page is Pelican Broadcasting. Got a YouTube account with different clips of stuff that we've done on Tigers Roar and some other things that Pelican is out and about doing at local high schools and whatnot. The Twitter account is at Pelican Sports. You can certainly find us. And you can always send an email to pelicanbroadcasting@gmail.com. That is a general email address, pelicanbroadcasting@gmail.com. And we'll get the email to the necessary person. Questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, programming issues, whatever you may have. pelicanbroadcasting@gmail.com. You do see the email address on your screen. And, of course, you can always contact us at pelicansportstv.com. When we come back, we'll recap LSU's 47-21 victory in Morgantown over the West Virginia Mountaineers. Among things, propelling them into the #1 spot in the Associated Press poll. With Chris Landry, I'm Tommy Krysan. Spread the roar. You're watching Tigers Roar right here on Pelican Sports TV, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and New Orleans.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Heinen, Miss Louisiana Team USA 2011.
And I'm Paige Pennick, Miss Louisiana USA 2011.
And you're watching Pelican Sports TV.
40 years, 4 decades, nearly half a century. That's how long the citizens of Greater Baton Rouge have chosen Richards Honda. A simple, sincere, and honest process.
Louisiana's oldest and most experienced Honda dealership for over 40 years, Richards Honda.
Hello, my name is Debbie. Welcome to Debbie's Bridal, a formal affair.
Come see the many great lines we carry in bridal, bridesmaids, mothers, flower girls, tuxes, and more. We also carry over 25 top designer lines in debutante gowns, Mardi Gras, pageant, and prom. Come meet me and my staff with over 30 years of bridal and pageant experience. Debbie's Bridal, a formal affair, Burnside and Gonzales, where service matters.
BetterBatonRougeJobs.com has been extremely beneficial for the TM Automotive Group. And what stands out to us, it's easy to use, not only for us, but it's easy for the applicants. And it's the quality of applicants that we get. It's timely. We post something in the morning. By that afternoon, we have double-digit applicants. And again, it's the quality of the applicants.
Employers, now is a great time to hire, recruit, and look for potential new employees.
BetterBatonRougeJobs.com. It's free for job seekers and great for business.
Our primary fundamental belief is that better ingredients, better pizza is quality, and that's what Papa John's is all about. Nobody does what Papa John's does.
Right now, get any large pizza with your choice of toppings, even our signature specialties, only $11. That's right. Order now at papajohns.com and get any large pizza with any toppings, just $11, only at papajohns.com.
Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's.
40 years, 4 decades, nearly half a century. That's how long the citizens of Greater Baton Rouge have chosen Richards Honda. A simple, sincere, and honest process.
Louisiana's oldest and most experienced Honda dealership for over 40 years, Richards Honda.
Chris Landry, LSU went on the road to Morgantown, West Virginia. First time football teams ever made that trip. A different environment, an enthusiastic environment to say the least. But the Tigers were able to get things done and come away with the victory, forcing 4 turnovers and not committing any on their end.
Well, yeah, I think the defense was very opportunistic. Had the big, as we've seen all year long with this team, very explosive plays in the return game. That was, I think, the thing that turned the game around for LSU. Of course, Ruben Randall had the drop touchdown that could have sealed the game away, but then Mo Claiborne comes back with the kickoff return. That was the real difference in closing the game out. But listen, defensively, certainly a different type of team to work up against this West Virginia team. Tackling wasn't really good, but you see, this was really not more. This was not a forced turnover here. This was a mistake by West Virginia. If you're West Virginia, you've got to win the turnover battle by 4, not lose it by 4. Really surprised if they had a chance, and they did until Claiborne returned that kickoff return back. To at least get back in the game. They were back in the game and had a chance to maybe turn it around and maybe pull it out. But they didn't protect the ball well enough, as well as they needed to. So you got to outplay LSU in the kicking game, which is tough, and you got to win the turnover battle, which is also tough against a very athletic defense that LSU possesses.
Then we get a look at the statistical recap of the ball game, LSU and West Virginia. Again, LSU wins by a score of 47-21. As you see the numbers there. A big difference in total offense, in particular the passing yardage, 463 by West Virginia. Of course, we got to get the turnover stat on there. 4 turnovers to none was a key without question. Only 5 penalties on LSU. I think Coach Miles is happy with that. So while a quick look at the stats, you might not think the score was what it was, especially with those passing yards.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, turnovers are the most important stat, and that's going to flip-flop anything. And while you can move the football, is how effective are you in the red zone? How are you going to able to make explosive plays, and can you protect the football? And those are the things that you see here. A big play like here, the turnover. This is a killer, for West Virginia, and you can't allow that to happen. Great play by Tyrann Mathieu, who's just been outstanding all season long without question. But that's the real difference. You know, turnovers and efficiency or lack thereof for West Virginia in making big plays, that was the difference in this game.
We're going to get some comments from Coach Les Miles and players about the West Virginia game, and then after those comments, we're going to let Chris offer his analysis about the 463 yards, the passing that West Virginia was able to put on the stat sheet, as well as the lack of maybe pressure on the quarterback. Not much pressure on Geno Smith, but before we hear from Chris Landry, here is Coach Les Miles and some of his players about the contest against West Virginia.
The West Virginia game, I was told that the environment was going to be special, that it was a wonderful place to play, that there was going to be a wild crowd there, and we were not disappointed. Our team enjoyed that environment. It was every bit a great atmosphere as it was reported to be, and again, offensively, we had good balance. Anytime that you're +4 in the turnover margin, as we were in that game, it gives you a great chance of winning. We had the short field most of the time. I thought the quarterback, managed the game well, protected the ball well.
I've been through a lot of, football problems, personal problems, and just to get out and just kind of just let everything go and just play with my teammates was amazing. Like I told, my coaches, my mom, my father, my family in general, I didn't have to have a catch. I didn't, have to play it down. I just want to be a part of, the team and help everybody out.
When they scored that touchdown to get in 6, offensively, we got it on the sideline. We said it's time to go out and do what we have to do. And Coach did a great job calling plays and running the ball pretty well. We continue to take over that game from that down on.
We definitely didn't play to the best of our ability, and Coach Chavis definitely let us know today in the meeting. So it's back to the drawing board. Thankfully, the offense was able to pick up our slack, and we still got the W, which is the important thing.
I think we had a pretty good output. We can definitely work on some things, like any other night. But I think it was okay.
Right,
no, we didn't blitz that much. But all week, we were just practicing on keeping those guys in front of us. We didn't want those guys, speed receivers, to get by our linebackers, just really put our defense at a disadvantage.
Defensively, they gave up some yards. Certainly was not a perfect outing by any stretch, but they continue to play with great intensity. And any time that you get 4 turnovers to none, giving them any, it gives you, again, a great opportunity to win the game.
I think we definitely was disappointed, as a whole, but, going into that game, we knew those guys was a high-powered offense. Those guys were going to make some big plays. So it was just really about us just keeping those guys intact for the most part.
Yeah, I was very disappointed. Probably I shed a couple of tears after the game, how he played. I wasn't very impressed with it, but that goes to say, again, we were getting caught up too much in the scheme of playing the screen so much. We were so reliant on the screens that we actually stopped pass rushing, and we were looking and searching around, which gave the quarterback time to throw. And, that's no excuse for us getting caught up in the screen. We should have still been pass rushing.
I think the offense did the things that they needed to do. I think the special teams did the things that they needed to do. Don't take a 99-yard kickoff return for a touchdown, as an offensive play. Certainly, there were pieces of that game that were controlled by all 3 phases. And we got 4 turnovers. We scored a special teams touchdown. We held the ball longer than our opponent. There were some real positives from there. And again, it takes all 3 phases.
It was great to be finally back out there with the team. I had to watch the Mississippi State game from my couch at home, which wasn't fun. Just traveling with the team, being back amongst the guys again, and obviously getting a great win out there on the road. It was really good.
Chris, two things really jumped out to LSU fans and observers of the game. The 463 yards passing. Geno Smith's not a bad quarterback. He's going to throw a lot of yards this year. And that coupled with the lack of pressure and hits and knockdowns and no sacks whatsoever on Geno Smith. Not a one-play Tyrann Mathieu made was, would be considered a pressure, I guess. But
Arizona blitz, yeah.
Yeah, but your analysis on what went wrong there.
Well, I think, first of all, I think people need to understand that there are different ways you can go about it. In LSU certainly is a high-pressure, heavy blitz team. They're a press-man cover team predominantly. They don't play off coverage very well. But when you play a team that's got built-in blitz beaters, the ability to check out of the play called make side adjustments, their receivers and backs, based upon blitz pressure, and they can dump the ball off and they can get maximum guys out on routes, sure, you can be aggressive, but it's at a greater risk than in other games against other opponents. You've got a big quarterback that's strong, that it's very easy for them to just dump it. You saw Sam Montgomery talk about the fact that, and one of the things you do against really good screen teams, and West Virginia's a really good screen team, you tend to be a little more passive because you're more. If you come hard with pressure, you're more vulnerable to screens. And if you're really aggressive, sure, you could make more big plays defensively, like you saw with Tyrann Mathieu there. But you also are much more risking a lot more points. And we can talk about the 539 yards. I think the conversation would be a lot different in Baton Rouge if they scored 38 points and beat LSU. I think people would be, what happened? Well, I think you have to understand that while you don't want to be unaggressive, I think the base pressure was not good enough. I think the tackling on the back end was not good enough. I think the criticism, if you want to criticize, you want to critique it, is not the philosophy in the game, but is a little bit more about they're one-dimensional defensively. They're not good playing off coverage. They're not good playing zone. So they're vulnerable against, throws underneath and being able to rally to the ball and tackling well in space. So those are the things that I think are valid. But certainly it's easy to look and say, well, how did you allow all those yards? You should have done this, and it would have been more impressive. Won the football game because they prevented, figuring that they're the better team, preventing the big play over the top is certainly less risky. It's like I use the analogy on radio. If they came out and threw the ball 60 times in the game, people would wonder, well, that's not our offense. That's what they do. Here, it was a risk-averse style of defense that knew that they could prevent the big play over the top, which is the only thing that was going to beat them. And certainly, if they had tackled better up front, the yardage would have been less. But the yardage is not the biggest factor here. It's the points, and that's the thing that's lost sight there. So I think the critiquing of maybe the style or the lack of multiplicity with the defense is a valid criticism. But the approach in the game, I think it's just typical fan reaction and what I call the limited knowledge of what's going on. And, well, that's not how we normally play, and we should be able to do that against anybody. Well, that's not the case.
So it's safe to say when structuring a defensive plan, if you plan to take away something, you're going to end up perhaps giving something. So if you're going to take away quarterback pressure and play over the top, you're going to give up 8, 10, 12-yard plays. You're going to give up those intermediate things because you're preventing a worse situation.
Right, no question. I mean, you're going to play off coverage. You're giving up the underneath stuff, the quick slants. Now, why are you giving it up? Play tighter. Okay, well, you play tight. Then if you get a play over the top in man coverage, press man coverage, then that's the big play that's beating you over the top, and then you're talking about big yards that ends up with 7 points at the end of the
and they had guys like Austin and Bailey who were very capable of doing that.
Very capable of doing it. Okay, well, he had a lot of time to throw. Well, he had a lot of time to throw, but again, understand what blitz beaters mean. You have built-in side adjustments that if you got four-man pressure, you will drop into the 5 and 7 step drops, and you have more time to throw. But if you see blitz, the quarterback, the running back and the quarterback, the perimeter receiver will see that blitz. Say you come with a corner blitz. Say you come with a linebacker blitz. Say you come with a safety blitz. They'll let that guy go. The quarterback's just going to dump it over. Well, who's covering them? Folks, if you got 5 guys out on routes and you got those guys covered, you got 4 guys rushing, you're limited what you can do there. It's an issue. Well, what do you do about it? Well, I think the issue is you got to be a little bit more scheme diverse. You've got to play better in off coverage. You know, if the only thing you can do on offense is throw the football, you can't run it, or just run it and can't throw it, well, we talk about you're not balanced enough. Well, defensively, it's no different. If you can only pressure And you can only do that, and I'm a big high-pressure guy. I believe you need to affect the quarterback as much as you can. But if you can't play effectively in off coverage and you can't tackle well, there are going to be teams that, not many, okay, but there are going to be teams at the higher level where you're going to have some problems against it. So I think while I don't know if you call it criticism, concern maybe, is valid, it's more valid into the lack of multiplicity and how they maybe do things defensively, because they win with defense with talent, athleticism, aggressiveness, and their ability to play and alter to their opponent that, in this case, that's really good with the short passing game is more difficult. So, again, I think you'd have seen even more short passes and more screen passes had they been more aggressive. I think you got to mix it up a good bit. But my biggest concern with the pressure, or the lack thereof, is the base pressure wasn't really good. And I think it had a lot to do with the fact the fear of the screen game, I think, really paralyzed their pass rush. Well, you got to give West Virginia a lot of credit for that. But then you also got to say, well, in an overall scheme standpoint, why are we not a little bit more scheme diverse and be able to attack that? That's fair, but I think the game plan criticism is just a little bit short-sighted, maybe not quite understanding the big picture.
This is a good spot for me to restate a thing that folks in New Orleans remember. Ron Gasper, Mr. Football, a legend sports writer and sports radio kind of guy in New Orleans, who was a dear friend of mine. He's no longer with us. And it goes what you made, two comments there, Chris. One, that West Virginia is a pretty good football team, and two, they're going to do some good things this year. Mr. Football told me one time, a long time ago when I first got into this business, he said, you got to remember that when you pull for one team, you only see a half a game. So if you're an LSU fan, you're pulling for one team, you're only seeing a half a game. You have to understand that West Virginia's got good football players. Geno Smith will probably be in an NFL camp at some point whenever he finishes at West Virginia. He's going to throw for a lot of yards this year. Austin and Bailey are speedsters. I mean, those are all scholarship football players at a BCS school. I mean, they are going to make plays sometimes and outdo your players, quite simply.
And that scheme works to the disadvantage of LSU style, or the lack of multiplicity on defense. So I think you're right. You have to, and we always preach this on our radio. I hate to say preach, but the radio show. You discuss it, be open-minded, understand. Very few fans. I do radio all around the country. Very few fans know very little about the teams other than the teams that they follow, and they think, well, we should be this and that, and we should hold teams to this yards. You gotta broaden a little bit. And again, I think some of the concern is valid. Certainly, you see some other really good defenses that a little bit more diverse and a little bit more adjusting to route progressions a little better than this defense does. This defense is very athletic, very aggressive, but teams that can work the screen package very well and the quick pass very well can torch that aggressiveness and make that aggressiveness that is your advantage in most cases to your disadvantage in this game. So I thought they really did a good job of recognizing what their limitations were defensively, schematically, and what they could or couldn't do, and they approached it. Now, you're not going to see that style this week. You're not going to see it for a few weeks because you're not going to see the same style of offense. Now, a team like Oklahoma could effectively do what West Virginia did, but that's a matchup may not happen, and if it does, it'll be a long time from now.
Chris, it seems like the name Tyrann Mathieu and the phrase great play seem to be run together a lot this season, as was last. And once again, he made a super play, not just an intelligent play, but an incredibly athletic play with tipping the ball and catching it and almost getting it to the end zone. He got it down a yard or two away from the goal line. Tyrann Mathieu continues. Some players just have that knack. You've seen it at the college level. You've seen it at the pro level. Some guys are just always around when that happens.
Well, he really does a great job, and you mentioned instinctive, and that's what he is. He has a real sense for where the ball is, playing the ball, reading the quarterback's eyes, reading receivers' routes, undercutting it, just coming on the blitz. He just has a great sense of timing, great sense of angles. And the big plays that I think are turnaround type plays, like the one we saw in the blitz, the tip interception that takes it in, the strip against Oregon on a punt return, fumble, you take it in. I mean, those are daggers that just completely take the wind out of an opponent's team. So yeah, it's been outstanding. It's not just big plays defensively; is that he's just become an offensive force, and how he sets up the offense or just out and out scores. Certainly he's been talking a lot, and certainly
that may tone down a little bit.
Yeah, I would hope so. That I think he's a little bit better than that. But this is something here that he just does a phenomenal job, and what a great play! You get the ball back for your team. But let me just say this. It's a product, too. Look, you got two other guys converging around the ball, the third one in a position. You're in a spot there where you don't have to, didn't secure the tackle, strip the ball out. That's part of what explosive, aggressive defense will allow you to do. And this was just a great instinctive play off the slot, being able to tip the ball away and turn it into leading to some points.
Here are some comments from Coach Les Miles about Tyrann Mathieu, the product of St. Augustine High School in New Orleans.
Again, Tyrann is a guy that has a knack for making big plays, sees the big play, anticipates it. He's a guy that you put him in position that his natural interpretation of play allows him to be exceptional.
Tyrann in football is in his DNA, so if the football's on the field, Tyrann is going to find a way to get it. I mean, I was on the field and I said, wow, when he stripped the ball from that guy, and then I said, wow, again when he got the interception. So, I mean, I think I'm getting pretty used to it, so when Tyrann makes a play, I was just like, oh, let's go again.
Going up against him every day on the defensive side of the ball, I'm glad we don't play him on Saturdays. Glad he's with us.
He's a little ball of dynamite, and a guy with that much energy, it's great to see him because he's on your side of the ball, but I would hate to have to play him. Anytime you see him on the other side of you, on the other side of the line of scrimmage, it would be crazy for me, intimidating to say the least.
I think there's a number of guys in that secondary like that. I think Terrell Simon and Mo Claiborne at the other corner. I think that both safeties inside. I think Reed and Taylor, both guys had big games. Both of them played well. I think there's I think that secondary has speed and size and experience, and when not experienced, very youthful, but very capable of understanding what they're supposed to do. And I think it's a great secondary. I think that secondary played a lot of football for a number of years.
For his performance on the field against West Virginia, Tyrann Mathieu was named the Walter Camp National Defensive Player of the Week, following up Mo Claiborne, who won it the week before. 6 tackles, the forced fumble, the interception. Tyrann Mathieu continues to be around when the big play is made, as both you and Coach Les Miles said. I mean, the guy's just unbelievable. It's almost like, what's he going to do next? Certainly, you would think there'll be something up next for him. Another LSU player garnered the SEC Special Teams Player of the Week, punter Brad Wing, who had like a hair under 49-yard average of punting the football. Brad Wing from Parkview Baptist in Baton Rouge. You see the 48.7-yard average with a long of 60, all down inside the West Virginia 11-yard line. Chris, don't have to tell you how important that special teams and that hidden yardage, as you like to call it, can be. Brad Wing, I can't say I watched all the other special teams players during the week for the conference, but hard to believe anybody outdid his performance, and the SEC says that.
No, it's been a long time. You down punts at the 3, the 4, the 5, the 9, the 10, the 11, and you force their average starting position and 15-yard line. I mean, you really start looking at all this and you think, and West Virginia really had a shot in the game, because they really did, because when the dominance, we talk about it and I always try to take it a different way when teams, what do you need to do to beat LSU? Because I think that's a good thing for LSU fans to understand a little bit more about their team, how opponents are going to attack them. You got to beat them on special teams. When do you beat LSU on special teams? You got a punter that's just been phenomenal. Your money for the most part in the field goal range. You win the field position battle. You win the turnover battle. You better be, just infinitely better, and no one is, and this is why they do all the little things well. Special teams has been outstanding. Wing has just been, everything is advertised. He's got real good ability and a knack for controlling the ball. You see the Australian, the soccer guys and the Australian rules guys have a real sense for how to handle the ball and control the ball with, their feet are like their hands, and it's they've really good skill sets for this young man.
Well, with the victory in the books against West Virginia, LSU completed a very impressive month of September, going 4-0, beating 3 ranked teams on the road, albeit the Oregon game at a neutral location, neutral site. Argument could be made that they're the best team in the country at the end of September. Who knows if they'll be there at the end of October or November or December or January, but the Associated Press was impressed enough to vote them #1 in their poll, which it is what it is, been around forever. It does not figure in the BCS standings. And then in the coaches poll, they're tied for #2 with Alabama. Here's some comments from Coach Miles about being ranked #1. Quite frankly, he looks at it as being a compliment to his program and the hard work. Let's hear from Coach Miles, and then Chris Landry will comment.
I enjoy the position. I think we're going to try to play to that. And I think it's a position that allows a college-age man to go to bed and wake up, with the same thought, and the fact that, there might be a special spot for this team. I know we haven't arrived. Our team understands that we're imperfect in a number of ways, but we're going to enjoy preparing with the idea that maybe we can get there.
Every year you play them, they're going to be 1 or 2 or maybe 3. Just, you guys always seem to pick them the last couple of years, #1 when we play them. So, but, I mean, again, it will mean the same as it meant a few years ago when we played them when they were #1. Be huge for our program if we can somehow put together a clean game, both sides of the ball, which is what it will take to beat these guys.
It's great. We've been working so hard in the summer, and ever since the bowl game last year, ever since that game ended, we always have high expectations here. Being ranked #1 is great, but there's a lot of games left and a lot more that we feel like we have to prove. So we're just looking forward to next week and the opportunities after that.
It's definitely an honor. We've worked hard to get to this point, but we got a long way to go. Got some good teams coming up, so we know we're going to get everybody's best shot every week. But we're excited to be where we're at.
You have to perform week in and week out. Knowing that you're #1. So we definitely don't want to lose a game. So we're definitely going to practice hard.
Well, we feel like the target's always on our back. We like to think of ourselves as one of the teams to beat, and being ranked #1 is not going to change anything. Of course, it's a great honor, and we're excited about being #1, but it's not our goal, and we've got a lot of work left to do.
Numbers are just numbers. We look forward to playing games on Saturdays and winning games. It doesn't matter whether we're #10, #9, #21. We come out there, put our best foot forward, try to put our best material on the field so that we can come out dominant.
I mean, we're looking at it right now as just a number. We're not trying to get too cocky with it. We're trying to stay humble, and that #1's gonna mean something when we're holding up that crystal ball. Well, I'm not really too fond of it. I don't like the target on our back, but one thing that I have noticed that guys haven't really bought into that. And we kind of have the mindset that we're still fighting to get to the top.
We hold a spot in college football today. It's not a final achievement or the spot that we've earned at the end of the season. So it's a compliment to the work they've done. I think we'll try to play to that that eventuality.
That feels great to me. I mean, obviously it doesn't change anything. We're going to still practice the way we've always been practicing and approach every game in the same manner. But I mean, it's a huge compliment to us, and I enjoy hearing it.
It's good to see, smiles on everybody's faces. It's always good to be #1. But at the same time, this team has been through a lot. Off the field issues as well on the field issues, and we realized that this all can be taken away, as fast as we got it. So we have to go out and we have to, once again establish, our play against Kentucky come Saturday, and I look forward to playing against a great opponent.
Well, we're just going to let it stay on the outside, just so what somebody think. We got to continue to play great football. We're still at the beginning of the season. We can't really focus on it, just continue to play dominant football and hopefully be #1 in the end.
It definitely put a smile on our faces to be ranked #1, but like I said a couple weeks ago, you can be ranked #1 and not win a national championship, so we can't get satisfied with that. We got to take it 1 week at a time and make sure we win the rest of our games so that way we can get to a national championship.
Chris, I know it's the end of September. Saturday's game against Kentucky is October 1 on the calendar. I'm going to kind of go along with Coach Miles and some of the players. It's a compliment. It's a sign of hard work. But in the big picture, it doesn't mean much.
I agree. I think all those comments are right. It is a compliment.
It's good. It feels good. I mean, it's nice for us to talk about.
Here's the one thing you mentioned. It may have been lost, so I want to repeat it. And you mentioned this, and this is really true, because a lot of people get confused. And for goodness sakes, can we blame anybody if they get confused about the BCS? I vote in the darn thing in the Harris poll, and it is confusing. The AP poll has nothing to do with it, and you hear this a lot, and on TV and radio they're ranked number 1. Well, they're not ranked number 1. They're ranked number 2, and the only poll that's out that matters, and that's the coaches poll. The Harris poll, which I vote in, comes out in the middle of October in a couple of weeks. Those two, along with the computer, it comprises it. Now, I can tell you that based upon what's out now, LSU would be ranked number 1 in the BCS. That's the only thing that really matters. And it really doesn't matter right now, as you mentioned it, because I think LSU's in good shape. As a voter, I have to look at every team every week and make decisions. But their body of work has been, I think, more impressive than anybody. Are they the best team? I don't know that they're the best team. I think that's going to be determined over the course of the year. They've got a matchup that if they take care of business, and Alabama takes care of business, and there's a lot for both teams to do, November 4th or 5th, sorry.
5th in Tuscaloosa.
In Tuscaloosa, that they will determine, obviously, likelihood of maybe one part of that. Well, take it to the SEC championship game. You take care of business there. A lot of stuff to be done. A lot of good teams there. I think that this team looks a chance to do special things. But as everyone has said, it really doesn't matter. And to be honest with you, it's great to talk about. We have a talk show. We talk about it. It doesn't mean anything. And so if Alabama's, for some reason, beats Florida and moves up ahead of LSU, people are going to be in an uproar here, and it doesn't mean anything. That takes care of it. I think where you got to be concerned, if you're Boise, if you're an unbeaten Wisconsin or Nebraska, I think that's where you become a little bit where you're concerned about where you're ranked, because you have a limited control over that. You don't get to play LSU. You don't get to play Alabama. You don't get to play Oklahoma. Oklahoma State does get to play Oklahoma, you see. So I think it's more of a concern there. As it relates to the teams that are at the top 3, trust me, it's a non-issue, and while it's great, it's a compliment, it just means absolutely nothing.
LSU, as we mentioned, has been on the road for 3 of their 4 games. You had the home contest against the Northwestern State Demons from up in Natchitoches. Next couple of ball games will be at home, albeit the 11:20 kickoff against Kentucky on October 1. In case you hadn't heard by now, the October 8th kickoff against Florida will be approximately 2:30, a few minutes after that. Les Miles and the players talked about coming home to Tiger Stadium as well as the morning kickoff.
I can tell you this, that our football team is looking very much forward to getting home. It's interesting. You start the season 3 or 4 weeks on the road. You understand the road regiment. You understand what you're supposed to do. You understand how you're supposed to play in tight quarters. I think we've got a real strong team identity there.
It feels good. It's always fun, to get back in front of the Tiger fans back in Death Valley. It's always exciting.
It's going to feel good, you're back in your home environment. You don't have to worry about a rowdy crowd like last week. It's one of the rowdy crowd I've been around. So it's going to feel real good coming out in front of our whole fans and hopefully get a victory.
I'd probably cry, man. This stadium, this city has done a lot for me and my family, and to get out and just, to enjoy it and, just feel like it's been years since I've been out there, and it's going to be a great experience.
Well, it's going to be an early kickoff, so people might not be, awake for it, but I'm sure being number 1 will add a little bit of excitement in the atmosphere, and people will be excited to cheer for us. We actually used to play Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. in Australia, but not an American game, no.
It's going to be tough. I haven't played in the morning since Little League, so we're gonna go out there and we're gonna play football. That's what we're gonna do no matter what time it is.
11 o'clock kickoff, it'll be wake up and get to the stadium. It's pretty early, but we'll be ready. It won't be too tough. It's not the first time we've ever done this, so The coaches will get the schedule prepared, and we'll be all right.
That's pretty early. You know, one of the earliest ball games I've been a part of, but we're ready for it, and you know, we're happy about it. And Kentucky's got a good ball club, and but we're ready for it.
For me, I'm gonna have to go to bed early because I like to sleep for a good 10 hours before a game, so I might be in bed around 8 or 9 o'clock on Friday.
I probably would have the hardest time getting going in the morning because, you know, I'm lazy when it comes to getting out there, but when I get out there, I know it's go time.
When we come back here on Tigers Roar, we will preview the Kentucky Wildcats. They'll play LSU for the first time since 2007 when they beat the Tigers in Lexington in triple overtime. Of course, as you know, LSU went on to win a national title after that season. We'll take a look at Kentucky when we come back. Chris Landry, Tommy Christ, and Spread the Roar. You're watching Tigers Roar right here on Pelican Sports TV, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and New Orleans.
Hi, I'm Troy Landry. You're watching Pelican Sport TV. I'm fixing to shoot him. Shoot him.
When you go hunting for tires, be sure to go to Hunt's Tire and Car Care, established in 1988. Hunt's Tire offers complete car care services and can meet all of your tire needs. From north to south, east to west, come see Les for the best. Michelin tires and great service. Call 272-7404. Relax in the customer lounge while waiting for your vehicle. Serving the greater Baton Rouge area since 1988, Hunt's Tire and Car Care is ready to serve you.
Explore the charms of the North Shore and visit St. Tammany Parish. Whether you're looking for a cultural experience or an adventure, you'll find it here. Enjoy great attractions and fantastic dining in a relaxed and friendly atmosphere.
Come visit us and discover the history and heritage that is Louisiana's North Shore.
For more information, log on to louisiananorthshore.com/bb.
Hi, I'm attorney Kerry Bryson. My law firm focuses specifically on helping people try to solve their IRS tax problems. Lately, so many new out-of-state companies are popping up claiming that if you send them money, they can resolve your IRS problems. Well, what happens if they don't? Do you hire an attorney? Maybe you should start with a local attorney that's already handled hundreds of IRS cases right here in Louisiana. When you hire the Bryson Law Firm, you won't be speaking long distance or sending money to some out-of-town high-pressure salesman. You'll meet with us in person at our office right here in Baton Rouge. Your first visit is completely free and confidential, and we'll tell you on the spot exactly how much it'll cost. So if you're hiring a company to resolve your IRS wage levies, bank levies, or tax liens, check their reputation first, then call me, Kerry Bryson, or go to brysonlawfirm.com. If you're a Louisiana resident and you have an IRS problem, hire a Louisiana attorney, Kerry Bryson.
The family dental practice of Dr. Farrell Fruget Jr. and our highly trained staff are dedicated to providing care and treatment to our patients of all ages in all aspects of dental care. 23 years of experience and advanced training in cosmetic and restorative dentistry, TMJ, and treatment of snoring and sleep apnea allows Dr. Fruget to assist you in achieving the best in dental health. Call us today at 292-9700 to schedule your initial evaluation, because we know how to make you smile.
We continue with Tigers Roar, and we get a look at Kentucky as the Coach Joker Phillips. We'll look at his bio coming into this ball game. His second year as head coach. He was on the staff at Kentucky for many years. Previously at South Carolina, quick stint there, and at Notre Dame. He's a guy that a lot of other coaches speak highly of, Chris.
Well, I've known Joker since he was a player at Kentucky, and gosh, I remember when he first got his job as assistant recruiting coordinator, and he was there around the time that I was at LSU on the coaching staff there. So he's kind of Kentucky tried and true, you know. Kentucky football guy way back, and he's got some good experiences and had a good recruiting class this past year, but he's got a long way to go. Lost some key players. They don't have a Randall Cobb on their team this year, and they lack playmakers and got some young guys playing 11 true freshmen, 4 that are starting. But you know, he's certainly working hard. No one knows the program and loves the program, and that's a tough place. It's a place that It's obviously basketball tradition. They do support football a lot more than most people think. There is money in that program. But, you know, it's a place where I think you got to win and you got to go to bowl games. And you got to be exciting. You know, Hal Mummy. But when Hal was at Kentucky, it was exciting. It was basketball on grass. It was an ideal fit. Unfortunately, off the field, it led to a whole lot of problems.
Right.
But if you have an excitement level there and you can go to bowl games there, you know, you could have a job forever there.
Well, you know, Hal Mummy, they beat Alabama for the first time in decades. They went to a New Year's Day Bowl. They went to the Outback Bowl under Hal Mummy, which was the first time they'd done that in decades. But then, as you said, some off-the-field problems caused them some issues for years, some loss of scholarships and whatnot. But anyway, Les Miles talks about preparing for the Kentucky Wildcats. Hey, they're in the Southeastern Conference, and you only have to go back to 2007 when they beat LSU in triple overtime in a game up in Lexington. Here's some comments from Coach Les Miles and players about the University of Kentucky football.
Is to prepare this week for Kentucky. Very quality football team. They have good players. I looked at them. I recognize comfortably that that this is an SEC team. And they got SEC players, and you can see it. The quarterback's very talented. Their defensive line is big, strong, physical guys, linebackers that can run, secondary they can cover. So I know they're 2-2, but Joker Phillips is a fine young coach and a guy that I know and will have them prepared to play.
Well, their back's against the wall. I feel like they're fighting for their life in the conference, and we expect to get their best. Playing in the East over there, you know, they've already lost to Florida, so all they can do is hope that they get beat by other teams. But if they lose this one, they're done. So we're definitely going to get their best shot.
Taking it on like any other ball game. You know, the record I believe doesn't speak for, you know, what type of team they have. And you know, the first thing that comes to mind when you think about Kentucky is, you know, the 07 years. You know, everybody's, you know, done a great job of explaining it to us, you know, what the situation they were in. You know, is making sure it doesn't happen, you know, again.
You know, treat it like any other opponent. We got to go out there and play our type of football, and we can't get beat in our house.
SEC, you know, it's one of the toughest conferences in the nation. So we got to go out and continue to play dominant football, no matter who we're playing. You know, just go out and dominate the game and hope to come out with a win.
A lot further along, you know, we've had a lot more success since then, and I think this is a different team. We've got to go down there and try to battle and get out of there with a win.
We take a look at the statistical comparison with LSU and Kentucky. Obviously, slanted LSU's way with the victory. A key stat, both very successful in the red zone down at the bottom there. However, LSU with many more opportunities in there. Stat that jumps out at me, Kentucky, not a lot of penalties. That's a good thing that I'm sure Coach Joker Phillips is happy about. But nonetheless, LSU is a better football team at this point in time. They still got to go play 60 minutes on Saturday morning.
Absolutely. And, you know, one thing in there, they are 5-0 under Joker Phillips when they win the turnover margin. So if they can find a way to do that, it certainly enhances their chances. The offensive line has been banged up, Tommy, and that's been a big contributing factor to their ineffectiveness, their lack of consistency on the offensive side of the ball. But as you see here, they've got a good young player. This is Josh Clemens, a true freshman, played against Louisville here. But the young team, not very talented, kind of devoid of playmakers. Morgan Newton has been very inconsistent, and we'll get into him a little bit. But there's no question this is a big challenge for them.
Yeah, and you see some action, as we said, from earlier season. Obviously, Kentucky wearing the blue uniforms there. They have, as you said, they playing 11 true freshmen, you said? And
11,
I'm sure they got more on the two-deep chart.
Yeah, four starting, 11 true freshmen that are a big part of it. They like that class, and they lost some key guys.
Let's take a look at some comments, not take a look in here by Coach Miles, some players, and Coach Joker Phillips of Kentucky about the Wildcat quarterback, Morgan Newton.
Very talented thrower, a guy that sees the field, very accurate. You know, really there was a number of drop balls in his last game, and I can just tell you that it's the quarterbacks putting the ball on the money, and certainly receiving core that catches, his ball will make him more productive. He, again, has the mobility and the ability to get out of the pocket and hurt you with your feet. And, again, he's a guy that can throw it and run it. So there's some real advantages to that position.
Just prepare for him like any other quarterback. He's like any other quarterback. He's a pass option, before run. And it's just really just going through, playing our game, playing our defense. And, I think everything will fall into place.
But for this guy from UK, I guess you would play furious on the pass rush, and you trust your inside guys to make them push up and push them out of that pocket so you can get a sack. As far as the draw and the screens, I guess you respond to it. But a dual quarterback, this will add a little bit more pressure on our defense, but I'm sure that we'll game plan for it this week. We'll get the installment today, and we'll do it just like we do it Monday through Friday.
It's always a challenge, facing a guy who can break the pocket. You have to keep your eyes on your man, because, those guys practice scrambling drills. So just really about us just eyeing our man down, knowing where the quarterback's at.
We prepare for every team like they are Florida or like they are Alabama. Playing Kentucky is no different. They want to beat us just as bad as everybody else, and we want to beat them just as bad as we want to beat everybody else. So we're going to prepare and work just as hard as we do for anybody else to beat Kentucky.
Take a look at some of the statistics that Morgan Newton has put up for the Kentucky Wildcats. You see he's a good-sized guy, 6'4", 235. He's a junior, 59 of 110 for 590 yards. He has thrown 5 touchdowns. Apologize for not having the interceptions up there. 6 interceptions. Yes. That's another. We apologize for that. Morgan Newton.
He's a 50% completions guy, and Tommy, and we saw some of the highlights, and what you saw there was good, and you see some of that. But what you don't see on there is he really makes some bad decisions and bad throws under pressure, and you saw it against Florida. Again, this is a nice throw. It's a good side of it, but in stretches, under pressure, boy, they're a turnover machine. And listen, they don't have a lot of playmakers. He's a guy with a good arm, has some mobility to extend a play. But I think that's where the problem starts to set in with them, is just a lack of consistency, and they tend to turn the ball over a lot. Now, they have some quick strike ability. They've scored 4 of their 8 offensive touchdowns in drives that last less than 2 minutes. So what you, again, have to do with a team like this is you don't allow the big play. You don't allow the play over the top, because he can hit that. But if you make him go 8 or 10 plays, they're going to be 4 bad throws in that, if he has to throw it a bunch. And so they will end up beating themselves over stretches. So they do it, as you mentioned, they're pretty effective in the red zone. 7 out of 10, 5 touchdowns, 2 field goals. They run mostly out of 11 personnel, 1 running back, 1 tight end, 3 wide sets. They're his most reliable target at receivers will Rod King, number 16, and Josh Clemens, who we saw some clips of at 20, is the best runner. So this is an offense that's just really struggled to develop any consistency. Really struggled. I broke down their tape late last night against Florida. Really struggled against Florida's pressure.
Here's a graphic to match up LSU-Kentucky, the 11:20 kickoff in Tiger Stadium. LSU, of course, is 4-0, 1-0 in conference play. You get a look at that. 4-0, 1-0 in conference play, defeated West Virginia last week. 1 in the AP poll, tied for 2 in the USA Today poll. University of Kentucky is not ranked. They're 2-2 overall. They're 0-1 in the SEC. Last week they lost to the Florida Gators in Gainesville, 48-10. Chris, you had some comments you wanted to make on the early start, the 11:20 kickoff.
A lot's been made of this, and I know it's not popular for fans, and I understand the tradition at LSU, and I have no arguments with you on there. I get it. It's all part of the way it is. What I will say as a coach, and this is really important, you get into this a lot of time where you never want to have built-in excuses for players. It's early. You can always sense it. Well, if you don't play well, it was early. It was a bad stuff. No. Okay, this game's 7 o'clock at night against a top 10 team. Okay, you play that game because this is your job, it's your responsibility, and I think that is important from a distinction of where the fans view it as opposed to where you don't let that infiltrate your team, because you have the parents and the girlfriends and the aunts and uncles. It's an early game. We can't do this. We can't do that. and it all seeps in, and it's something you fight as a coach. That doesn't matter. You're going to be a great team. You're going to be a great team at 11 a.m. If they say 2 a.m., whatever the case will be, play, be ready. So it's something that I think is important out of there, because I can always sense it. If it's not as impressive, well, it was the early game. It was the early, so it's just an excuse.
Well, isn't the coaching staff during the week going to do some things to kind of adjust the body clock of the players, maybe tell them get to bed a little earlier each night this week, wake up a little earlier than normal so that Saturday won't shock the body? Won't they do things like that?
It is, and it is a little – listen, there's some difficulties. Most guys eat pre-game meal. They like the pasta and the marinara sauce. It's maybe not as palatable at 7 a.m., as it is at noon. Okay, I get that. You just make adjustments. You're going to have to do it. They're just bowl games. You have these situations.
Right.
But absolutely, you get them adjusted a little bit differently. Listen, you play a lot of games. You can play games at 2:30. It's just adjusting a little bit from that. That's not a big adjustment. It's difficult. It's a big adjustment for fans. They get it. And no one at LSU, associated with LSU, would ever want to think about having games at this time. They just have to. But as a team, as a player, you can't – I just say this all. It's kind of like when the Colts lost Peyton Manning. It's like you almost could sense it that first week. Well, they can't do anything. And it's all of a sudden you had guys that couldn't find their rear end with both hands in a game. Guys that it was built-in excuses. And I think something that I just mentioned that it's just you don't want to have that. Your players have to be focused like it's any other game. It's like it's playing, Alabama at 2:30 or Florida at 7 o'clock at night, because it's what you have to do. You'll adjust.
And some people don't understand. I saw some comments on the Pelican Broadcasting Facebook page. Again, Facebook page, Pelican Broadcast. That's unfair making LSU play Florida at 2:30 after they're playing at 11. Money and TV and contracts dictate all this.
Everybody else has to do it.
Well, and I remember going back years ago when Lou Holtz was still coaching at Notre Dame, he said the TV people call him up and say, Coach, you got to kick off at 2 o'clock. His answer is going to be a.m. or p.m.
That's right.
Whatever it takes to get it done, that's what we will have to do. Hey, we want to repeat a story that we brought to you at the top of the hour. You're watching live on a Wednesday night here. If you're catching this on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, you got a replay going. But information that came out just before we went on the air tonight at about 7:30 here on Wednesday night. Jordan Jefferson and Josh Johns have been reinstated to the LSU football team. They will rejoin the team and begin practice immediately. That's a quote from Vice Chancellor and Director of Athletics Joe Oliva. What happened in the courtroom today, Josh Johns, who was one of the players indicted with the felony charge, all charges were dropped against Josh Johns. Jordan Jefferson, who had the same charges assessed to him, it was reduced to simple battery. Which is like a misdemeanor. It is not like a misdemeanor. It is a misdemeanor. It's like getting a speeding ticket. Want to thank Sheriff Bud Torres from Point Capee Parish, who was in our studios right before airtime tonight. And the difference between the felony and a simple battery is the burden on the state, if you're going to convict someone of a felony, is to prove an intent to harm, damage, cause problems. You have to prove intent. Obviously, by reducing the charges to a simple battery on Jordan Jefferson, they're acknowledging that something happened. He was involved with something. Charged with simple battery. It's a misdemeanor. It's like getting a speeding ticket. That's quote unquote from Sheriff Bud Torres of Point Capee Parish. And now these two guys have been put back on the team by Joe Oliva. We'll await comments from Les Miles going forward. Probably not going to hear much until maybe after the Kentucky game on Saturday as to what exactly the role for these guys will be.
And of course, it was in conjunction. Joe with Les have accepted him back on the team, as you alluded to. And that's, I think what'll be interesting, and obviously this is Les Miles' decision, and it was approved by his superior Joe Oliva and his superior Bill Martin. But how this will have an effect, if any. I was just thinking as you were reading that is how much play will this get on TV? I mean, how much is it well, yeah, exactly, a lot. But and then how do players feel about it? Players are going to go along with whatever the coach wants to do. But I can tell you there are going to be some players that are not going to really be happy that 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 not that Jefferson's back. I think they're all going to be happy that he's back, but maybe it wasn't handled right. You're going to have some that feel that way. Then you're going to have some that are just really glad, and you wonder if you don't have a good feel for it, it could have an effect. How much attention does he get? A lot. How do the players feel? Hey, we're unbeaten. We're ranked number 1 in the country in the AP poll and number 2 in is now the focus going to be? You wonder. This is maybe a good week for it to just happen and go away, and maybe less will be talked about it the next week, and then less the next week, and then less then. Right. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, because this team has played good ball with all the defensive mistakes and missed assignments and missed tackles and missed extra interception opportunities. All that notwithstanding, they played pretty well. The offense is starting, and we hadn't really got into that. The offense is starting to play pretty good ball and play. And now, how does that reflect if there's any issues, more, do you kind of integrate him into the package in the next couple of weeks in certain roles, strictly as a backup? I think a lot of questions are going to be asked that probably maybe cause some resentment in the locker room as to why the focus being somewhere else instead of on what we're doing that we've been here all along. Just something I'm throwing out that you don't know. You have to deal with, I know, in the locker room as a coach. We remind you, Tigers Roar is live each and every Wednesday night. Baton Rouge, Lafayette, New Orleans on Pelican Sports TV. Streaming on the internet at pelicansportstv.com. If you're catching this Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, we appreciate you watching it. I know our good friends at WHNO TV in New Orleans play this at 5 p.m. on Fridays on WHNO TV Channel 20 in New Orleans. You can catch the entire 2-hour program, but we are live here on Wednesday nights. We ask you to spread the roar. The Wednesday night show does stream on the internet at pelicansportstv.com. When we come back, we'll break down LSU. Chris Landry, Tommy Christ, and spread the roar. You're watching Tigers Roar on Pelican Sports TV, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and New Orleans.